Palestinian death surge in Israeli jails amid Gaza war. Russia-Ukraine war deadly strike in Kharkiv as Zelensky meets Macron. Dozens of Indian pilgrims fell dead in Saudi bus crash. Dozens dead in DR Congo mine bridge collapse. Good afternoon. Welcome to the World in 30 Minutes on Politics and Business Television. I'm Fatima Abubakar Oibo. Many thanks for joining us. Details of this news stories and more content to come after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A new report has revealed a sharp rise in Palestinian deaths inside Israeli prisons since the outbreak of the Gaza war. Human rights groups alert that detainees have faced worsening conditions, including overcrowding, restricted access to medical care, and harsh treatment, leading to a surge in fatalities. The findings have sparked outrage among Palestinian officials who accuse Israel of violating international humanitarian law. Israeli authorities have yet to issue a detailed response, but the claims are fueling growing international concern over the treatment of prisoners during the ongoing conflict. Advocacy organizations are calling for independent investigations and urgent intervention to protect detainees, warning that the situation could further inflame tensions across the region. But President Donald Trump has announced his support for the complete release of files related to Jeffrey Epstein, marking a sharp reversal from his earlier stance. The move comes amid growing public pressure for transparency on Epstein's connections and alleged crimes, with Trump insisting that Americans deserve to know the full truth. His statement has reignited debate over how much information has been withheld and what impact its disclosure could have on powerful figures linked to the case. The decision is expected to intensify scrutiny of Epstein's network and raise fresh questions about accountability. Legal experts warn that the release could expose sensitive details, while advocates argue it is a necessary step towards justice for victims. The reversal underscores the political weight of the issue as Trump positioned himself as a champion of transparency ahead of renewed public interest in the scandal. Well, Chile is heading to a decisive presidential runoff after no candidate secured an outright majority in the first round of voting. Leftist contender Camila Jara and conservative rival Jose Antonio Cast emerged as the two leading candidates, setting the stage for a high-stakes contest that reflects deep political divisions in the country. Analysts say the runoff will determine the future direction of Chile's economic and social policies. The Electoral Commission confirmed that the second round will take place in December, with both camps already intensifying their campaigns. Jara has promised sweeping reforms to tackle inequality, while Cast is pushing a conservative agenda focused on security and economic stability. The runoff is expected to draw significant voter turnout as Chileans prepare to choose their next leader in a closely watched election. Voters in Ecuador have overwhelmingly rejected proposals to allow the return of foreign military bases to the country. The decision, delivered through a national referendum, reflects strong public sentiment against foreign military presence and a desire to safeguard national sovereignty. Analysts say the outcome underscores Ecuadorians' determination to maintain control over their territory and security policies. Government officials hailed the vote as a reaffirmation of independence, stressing that Ecuador will continue to pursue its own defense strategies without external interference. The rejection also sends a clear message to international powers seeking influence in the region, highlighting the country's commitment to self-determination and regional stability. 3 people have been killed and at least 15 others wounded following Russian strikes on Ukraine's eastern Kharkiv region. Local officials say the overnight attacks targeted civilian areas, adding to the growing toll of casualties in the ongoing conflict. Russia's defense ministry, meanwhile, claims its forces destroyed dozens of Ukrainian drones as strikes also hit energy infrastructure across multiple regions, leaving repair crews scrambling to restore power. In Paris, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with French President Emmanuel Macron in a renewed push for military support. The talks focused on securing advanced weaponry and strengthening Ukraine's defenses as Russian offensives intensify. Analysts note that the meeting underscores Kyiv's reliance on Western allies to sustain its resistance, while the latest attacks highlight the urgency of international backing for Ukraine's war effort. Oyster farmers in Fiji are sounding the alarm as rising sea temperatures and changing ocean conditions are threatening their livelihoods. Communities that depend on aquaculture say the climate crisis is disrupting breeding cycles, damaging coastal ecosystems and reducing harvest. Many farmers report that unpredictable weather patterns and stronger storms are making it harder to sustain production, putting both food security and local economies at risk. Environmental experts warn that Fiji's oyster industry is a microcosm of the wilder challenges facing Pacific nations on the front lines of climate change. Efforts are underway to introduce more resilient farming techniques and strengthen coastal protections, but farmers insist urgent global action is needed to safeguard their future. The struggle highlights the human cost of climate change as traditional livelihoods are increasingly endangered by remittances. While tourism-related stocks in Japan have suffered sharp declines following a diplomatic spark with China that has strained travel economic ties between the two nations, market analysts say airlines, hotel chains, and retail companies catering to Chinese visitors recorded significant losses as tension escalated, raising fears of reduced tourist inflows. The downturn underscores the vulnerability of Japan's tourism sector, which relies heavily on Chinese travelers for revenue. Investors are closely watching development as both governments exchange heated rhetoric, with concerns that prolonged disputes could further dampen consumer confidence and cross-border travel. Industry stakeholders are urging diplomatic resolution to prevent lasting damage, warning that continued strain could derail Japan's post-pandemic recovery in tourism and hospitality. You're still watching The World in 30 Minutes live on Politics and Business Television. Still to come, Bangladesh seeks extradition of Sheikh Hasina after death sentence. Stay with us. Welcome back. A tragic accident in Saudi Arabia has left dozens of Indian pilgrims feared dead after their bus crashed along a busy highway. Local authorities report that a vehicle carrying worshippers en route to a religious site lost control before overturning and bursting into flames. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but the scale of casualties has raised alarm, with survivors taken to nearby hospitals for urgent treatment. The Indian government is closely monitoring the situation, with officials working alongside Saudi authorities to identify victims and provide support to families. The incident has cast a shadow over the pilgrimage, prompting renewed calls for stricter safety measures on transport routes frequently used by worshippers. Investigations are underway to determine the exact cause of the crash. Bangladesh has reportedly sentenced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death, sparking a diplomatic row with neighboring India. Authorities in Dhaka are demanding her extradition, alleging she fled across the border to avoid persecution. The development has sent shockwaves through the region, raising concerns about political stability and human rights in Bangladesh. India, however, faces mounting pressure as officials weigh the implications of handing over the former leader. Analysts warn that the case could strain bilateral relations and ignite international debate over due process and political persecution. The unfolding situation underscores the tense climate in South Asia, with global observers closely monitoring how both nations navigate the crisis. While severe landslide triggered by relentless heavy rains have claimed dozens of lives across Southeast Asia, leaving communities devastated and infrastructure badly damaged. Officials report that the villages were buried under mud and debris, with rescue teams struggling to reach survivors in remote areas. The downpours, which have persisted for days, have also caused rivers to overflow, worsening the humanitarian crisis. Emergency services are racing against time to clear blocked roads and provide relief to displaced families. Governments in the region are urging residents in high-risk zones to evacuate, while international aid agencies prepare to step in with support. The disaster highlights the growing vulnerability of Southeast Asia to extreme weather events linked to climate change. Back in Africa, tragedy struck in the Democratic Republic of Congo as a bridge collapsed at a copper and cobalt mine, killing dozens of workers. Local authorities say the structure gave way while miners were crossing, plunging them into debris and chaos. Rescue teams rushed to the site, but officials warned that the death toll could rise as more bodies are recovered from the wreckage. The incident has reignited concerns over safety standards in Congo's mining sector, which is vital to global supply chains for critical minerals. Human rights groups are calling for stricter oversight and accountability, while grieving families await answers. The government has promised a full investigation into the collapse as the nation mourns the lives lost in one of its most important industries. Heavy fighting has erupted in Sudan's West Kordofan region as the National Army moves to resist the Rapid Support Forces' eastward push. Local reports indicate that clashes have spread across several towns, with artillery fire and ground assaults leaving communities trapped in the crossfire. The renewed violence underscores a deepening struggle for control in Sudan's ongoing civil conflict. Military officials say troops are determined to halt RSF advances, warning that the battlefront could expand further if reinforcements are not contained. Humanitarian groups are raising alarm over the impact on civilians as displacement and shortages of food and medical supplies worsen. The situation highlights the fragile state of Sudan's security landscape, with West Kordofan now a critical flashpoint in the war. And that wraps up the program, but before we go, the headlines again. Palestinian deaths surge in Israeli jails amid Gaza war. Russia-Ukraine war, deadly strike in Kharkiv as Zelensky meets Macron. Dozens of Indian pilgrims fear dead in Saudi bus crash. Dozens dead in DR Congo mine bridge collapse. For more updates and in-depth analysis, follow Politics and Business TV.English on YouTube and Facebook. Connect with us on Instagram at PMBTV_English and TikTok and at PMB.